So, hello, Manfred Karrer. I'm very glad that you are able to join me here for a discussion. You are an Austrian software developer living in Barcelona, and you're working on a project called Bitsquare since early 2014. Can you perhaps tell a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes, thanks, Johan, for inviting me. Great to be on your show. I'm, as you said, I'm a software developer since more or less 15 years. Before I was a musician, and I'm started with Bitsquare 2.5 years ago. My previous background was more on UI development with Flash and Flex, and that gave me quite a few advantages to build a peer-to-peer system which has also a good UI, because that's not so usual in the open source world. The usual hacker developers, they are not very good with UI and usability. So I hope I could have brought in a little bit of my past experience in there.
So you developed a platform. I will read it, what it is exactly. I read Bitsquare, that's the name of the project, is an open source peer-to-peer application that allows anyone to trade Bitcoin for national currencies or cryptocurrencies. And then it says that Bitsquare requires no registration or verification process and does not hold users' data or funds. That's quite special, I think. That last sentence. Perhaps you can elaborate more about the platform so that we can understand what you mean with all that.
Yeah, I mean, the motivation behind was for me that we have now Bitcoin as a decentralized and cryptocurrencies where you don't need trusted third parties and you don't need to register to use Bitcoin or whatever, but we still don't have exchanges where you can purchase your first Bitcoins in the same manner, following the same principles like Bitcoin. So that's a big contradiction. Usually when you want to buy Bitcoin, you have to go to a centralized exchange, you have to register, give away your identity. They then connect your identity, your real life identity with your Bitcoin, and then you lose a lot of privacy and anonymity. And I think that's quite problematic. So that was the motivation behind the project. And 2.5 years ago, there was quite a lot of discussions how to build a system, a peer-to-peer system, where you don't need a trusted third party and which can be privacy protecting. And it was not easy to find a concept which works, but at the end, it was possible, as Bitcoin has proven.
Do I understand you well that when you sign up for another exchange, that you're not private, so you need to sign in? Or?
So at least with the fiat exchanges, when you want to buy euro or US dollar and in national currencies, I think every exchange requires that you register with your real life identity, showing your passport. Usually it takes quite a little bit of time, up to weeks or months even, when you have bad luck. And with cryptocurrency exchanges, there are still exchanges where you can exchange anonymously, like Shapeshift, where you don't need to register at all. But I think it's just a question of time until the regulatory bodies will cover them as well, in my opinion. And I think the reason for this regulation and so on are quite simple, because those companies are holding the users' funds. Usually you're storing your Bitcoin or your fiat or both on their platform. And of course, it's a lot of risk, and you need to trust them that they are operated in a professional way, that they are not repeated Mt. Gox like happened 2.5 years ago, where I don't remember how many, but I think a few hundred millions were lost. And for this requirement that you trust these companies, the regulations are in place. But when you avoid these problems, when you build a system where the users are always in possession of their funds, of their cryptocurrencies and of the fiat as well, and Bitsquare is never holding this the users' funds, then you get rid of these problems and of the requirement for regulation. And I talked with experts regarding this topic, and they confirmed it. I mean, of course, it's a gray area, never get 100% sure answer to this, but at least it's logical when you avoid the problems for what the regulations have been created for. Then the regulatory bodies will not cover you because they don't have a reason.
So why should I trust Bitsquare more than a regular exchange? Because you're referring to Kraken and other exchanges, I guess, who are more centralized. Why should I trust Bitsquare more? So
in Bitsquare, it's all open source. So as when you're a developer and you can verify and can understand the code, you can verify it yourself that everything is like I explained. Of course, many people are not developers and have not the possibilities, but then it's a kind like a natural trust relationship that when it's completely open source and there's the possibility that any developer can check it out and can verify that I'm not talking bullshit, that they build on this trust. And of course, Bitsquare as a project and myself, I'm responsible to help to build up this trust relationship in a way that people who are not able to verify every detail by themselves, that they are trusting it. But I mean, the main difference is, that it's completely open source. So you're installing a desktop application. You can run it also by yourself from source code and compile it yourself if you're a developer. And your funds are always in your wallet, or in the in the moment when you're in the exchange process, then the Bitcoin get locked up in a multi-sig address. But the key holders of the multi-sig address are the two traders, and then an arbitrator who is only required when there are problems to help to get out the funds again when there are some issues. But Bitsquare is never receiving the funds, so it's always in their possession, the funds also in possession of the user, or in this smart contract, which is called this multisig. For the people, for the listeners who don't know what multisig is, it's something like a lockbox. So people can put in money into this lockbox, and to get out, to spend this money again, they need a certain amount of keys for signing. And that's defined, how many keys you need from a certain set of keys. And we're using a 2 or 3 multisig. That means you need a minimum 2 keys to unlock these funds, and from a set of 3 keys. The 3 keys are held by the 2 traders and the arbitrator. So usually when everything goes fine, the 2 traders are unlocking at the end of the trade this deposit, and then the money goes to the Bitcoin buyer. And when there is an issue, so then they can call the arbitrator, which is basically something like a customer care system where you describing what was the problems, maybe software bugs, maybe usability problems, or maybe later scams. Until yet, we didn't have any scams, luckily. And then the arbitrator has to find out what was going wrong and then make the payout to the person who deserves the money.
Okay, I see. It is not. Is it like escrow service or?
It's something like an escrow. For the people who are familiar with OpenBazaar, it's a very similar concept in general. Also, the way how Bitsquare works is very similar to OpenBazaar also, and they have also such an escrow service which is called Mediator in their solutions. We call it arbitration system. And it should be, as it will be in future, a decentralized arbitration system as well. At the moment, that's not implemented. So at the moment, I'm the only arbitrator. So when there are issues, I will investigate the case and try to find out that has, at the moment, practical reasons, because it's mostly software bugs or usability issues. So it's better for me to get the direct feedback and can help the people directly and learn what I need to improve for the next versions. And later, in probably 4 or 5 months, we will implement the fully decentralized arbitration system. Then basically everybody can become an arbitrator. But all the details I don't want to explain here because that would be a little bit too much, and it's not important at the moment.
Okay, so I read also an ordinary person, in fact, can exchange his dollars or his pounds for Bitcoin. That's the essence.
Yeah.
So I see. So is there always a twinning so that someone is doing the opposite transaction?
Yeah, it's a little bit like for the people who are familiar with local Bitcoins, it's basically like a decentralized version of local Bitcoins. In local Bitcoins, you are doing also the fiat transfer, also the euro or US dollar transfer, you do out of system. So you go to your banking webpage and then send the money to the other trader. And that's also like in Bitcoin, it is implemented. So it's only the Bitcoin is held in Bitsquare and it's managed in Bitsquare, and we're using this multisig for the security as a replacement for a trusted third party, and fiat transfer is done out of system, similar like in local Bitcoin. And yeah, basically everybody can just download the software. It's a one-click installer. It's available for all operating system. You start it and you can start using it. You don't need to register. You don't need to ask for any permission or whatever. It's like a BitTorrent. It's a peer-to-peer system where the users are connected over a peer-to-peer network. A custom peer-to-peer network, and we're using Tor and Tor hidden services. But the users don't need to set up or configure anything. It's all integrated in Bitsquare, which gives us a lot of resilience from the network level and a lot of privacy. We get all the privacy features from Tor. So that's a very secure and privacy protecting solution.
If I understand well, so the application uses the Tor protocol, or is that correct?
Yeah, as we're using this Tor hidden services, that's as a peer-to-peer application always consists of a client and a server in one. So you are listening, you are open for other connections, so other users can connect to your client, and you are sending messages to other connections.
Okay.
I see. The Tor hidden services is basically just a way how you are routing the your server part over Tor, and then your network ID is this onion address, which normally it's your IP address. So people, when somebody knows your IP address, they can connect you. And with Tor hidden services, it's the onion address, and you get all this privacy protection and anonymity features from Tor and Tor hidden services.
Okay, I would like to go back. So from the fiat money, when you do an exchange through Bitsquare, from the fiat money perspective, there is no money going onto the Bitsquare platform. It's wired. Exactly. It's wired from your bank account to the other person's bank account. That's the way that it works.
Exactly.
And then there is a kind of middleman, let's say, not the middleman, but the person who will be the arbiter, let's say. Or
the arbitrator plays only a role when there are problems. So when you want to buy Bitcoin and I is selling you Bitcoin, then maybe you create an offer, I take your offer, and then I need to lock up my Bitcoin, what I sell you, in this multisig, and you get my bank account data over the application. So you see in the application, okay, now send 700 euro to Manfred, and then you go to your banking webpage, send the money to me, and then it depends on the speed of the banks. Unfortunately, some are very lazy and slow, some are faster, but it depends. Maybe
they have to work with your money.
Yeah, in Austria they're terrible slow. They takes 2 or 3 days sometimes. But in some countries, and when it's the same bank, or so it's the same day at least, or some are really instant. So then I get the message, you have sent me you confirm it that you have sent the money. I get the message in Bitsquare that you have sent the money. I will go to my banking webpage and check if I've received the money. And when I have received the money, I confirm it. And then the application creates the payout transaction from this multisig where the Bitcoin were locked up, and you receive the Bitcoin, and the trade is basically over.
Is it the bank? Is it the bank that notifies Bitsquare, or how does the communication go from the bank once the money is being wired from one bank account to the other? How how is the person at Bitsquare notified that the funds have arrived?
Yeah, I have to check manually. I only get from when you have started the bank transfer, you click a button in Bitsquare. Okay, I've started the bank transfer, and then I get a message over Bitsquare, and then I know that you have at least started. So it depends on the speed. It might be that immediately I can check my bank account, or the next day or so. And when I see that the money has arrived on my bank account, then I go back to Bitsquare as well and confirm that I've received the money. And with this button click, everything is completed.
Okay, now I got the complete picture. I was a little bit in the mist, let's say. Yeah. Okay, so that's I like the concept. It's decentralized. It's anonymous. You don't keep the funds. We have our wallet, if I understand it well. So we don't need to give the confidence to a third party with regarding to a wallet where they have the private keys. So you stay in full control. So it's awesome. Exactly. The question I have then is. How does when governments hear about peer-to-peer and it's anonymous and how isn't that a little bit how would I say it, against when it can be done anonymous? Isn't that government likes to control? So
yeah, but that's their problem, and that should not be our problem, because when governments are over-expanding the definition for what they are good for organizing common good and the public and services for the public, but they are not. We don't have elected our governments to build systems for total surveillance. I mean, we are going in a very dangerous direction. And of course, that's the area where the governments will not like Bitsquare, because they cannot get all this data. Even I cannot get out this data. So the private data on the clients, on the users' machines is really private. I have no access at all. So when you set up your bank account and do a trade with another trader, I don't see anything. There is only either completely public data, what everybody can read, like the offers, and then everything what's going on in the Bitcoin blockchain. So people could see that there is going on a Bitcoin trade, because you can follow this transaction and so on, but they don't see who has traded with whom, as long the Bitcoin addresses stay anonymous. As long as you are not linking your Bitcoin address with your real life identity, you're anonymous. And I think that's a human right. I mean, privacy is a human right. People tend to forget this, and actually, in the past, it was the very normal way that people do a lot of stuff completely private and anonymous, like cash. And we got still 9/11. The whole world is driving in a very dangerous and crazy direction. And I think we have to do something against this, because I mean, it's really not a good development.
Yeah. Okay. Question I have is, in fact, how is the platform evolving? How do you see the future? Because it's a beautiful project. You need to build it out, I guess, because there will be. It's in early stage. How long does it exist, Bitsquare?
It's the official beta has launched on the 28th of April, so it's more or less 2 months or so. And Bitsquare is on mainnet, also on the Bitsquare mainnet with real money, open for testing and for using since January. So we had more or less 3 months intensively tested it and so on. And it's still bootstrapping, of course. After the beta launch, I made quite a long tour in Europe and Israel with 11 cities all in all. And it was very interesting and fantastic to meet all the local Bitcoin communities and get in touch with so many people. And it's still in this bootstrapping way that we are spreading the word, that we need to get more users on the platform, but it develops good. I mean, we had more or less, I think, 400 or 500 trades the last 2 months, and more than 1,500 offers have been created. And there are usually more or less 15 users online. So it's not it's not bad for the start, but of course it needs more time. And I think it's a process, and I prefer also to have a slow and organic growth with people who are using it. They really understand the concept behind and the motivation behind, and sharing the same ideas, rather than having thousands of mainstream people who just want, I don't know, follow a hype and then are leaving as quickly as they're coming. So I prefer a little bit slower and organic growth and have real community behind it. And there's still a lot of work open, and and of course it's a little bit a different concept, like a centralized exchange. So the day traders who just want to speculate on price movements, they will not be very happy with Bitsquare because it's too slow for them. And it's the same like local Bitcoin. They are usually not using local Bitcoin. It's more for people who want to really buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin to fiat or to other altcoins, and who are concerned about privacy and who are concerned about decentralization. Those are our main target group, of course. And I think usability and the fact that you don't need to register, I mean, that's really a big, for instance, for me, for Bitstamp, it takes me 3 months until I got accepted, because they always rejected some utility bills stupidly. And it was really a nightmare to get my account approved. And I mean, that's a big hurdle for new people. And I knew already a lot of people who was interested in Bitcoin, but they didn't want to start to make a registration at the bank-like company where they need to send all the documentation there just to get their first Bitcoin. And those people were very happy to have now Bitsquare to get into this decentralized currency system without violating the principles.
Okay. I got an echo. Okay, that's better. Thing I have also, you talked about doing a kind of distributed ownership model. Can you elaborate on that? Because I didn't.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of doing a distributed ownership model?
Yeah, so one problem, and probably the main reason why such a decentralized exchange did not exist earlier, was because it's not easy to make money with this, and there is no clear business model for doing this. Because when you have everything completely open source and transparent, there are quite a lot of issues to apply traditional business model, which are normally based on control of resources and that you are a controlling entity. And to go such a radical different way requires also new ways how you build a business model or revenue system. And our concept is there are trading fees. At the moment, the trading fees are super low. They're a little bit above their mining fees, but later there will be in the range of other exchanges as well. And the trading fees should go to to all the people who have helped to build the system.
So it's not a crowdfunding system then?
Not really. It's more like a app, how to call it. It's a little bit difficult because now this general idea of the DAO, of the decentralized autonomous organization, which is close to this, get quite a lot of negative feedback with what happened today. So I don't want to get in too much in this, and it's very different. So I just explain it how it works in Bitsquare, and then people can maybe suggest better names because I still have not a very good term for it. It's the main idea is that the project is owned by the people who have built it. I need more developers. I need more people to help in many areas, and I want to pay them with tokens, with shares of the project. So a developer who is working for Bitsquare will receive, instead of euro payment, the shares, and the shares will be calculated with the price, with the market price. So the shares can be traded over Bitsquare, and the shares represent, with the shares you get the revenue. And the revenue is from the trading fees. So the trading fees get distributed to the shareholders. So when you are trading over Bitsquare, you are paying maybe later something like €1 or so trading fee, and then you are selecting one of the shareholders by probability, and this shareholder will receive your trading fees. So the shareholders will receive a stream of micropayments directly from the user. And so we are avoiding all the problems that Bitsquare is receiving all the money and then paying out to the shareholders. And and there is much less risk because the people who are the receiver of the shares, so we are issuing the shares only to people who are working for the projects. So we are not issuing shares to laymen who don't have sufficient experience and idea about this, because that's another problem with these ICOs or IPOs, that it's a lot of scammy stuff happening in that area. And there's also regulation for this stuff, with good reasons, because many problems happen. And one of the reasons is because people are selling their their tokens or their shares to laymen who don't have the sufficient time and knowledge. But we are giving out the shares only to people who are working for the projects. So by definition, they are experts, because otherwise their work would not have any value when they're not experts with Bitsquare.
So they're actively participating in the Bitsquare projects, and according to the revenues on the fly, they are earning then a revenue based on the fees, the transaction fees that you have pointed out.
Exactly, yeah. So when you have, for instance, 5% of all the shares, then you have 5% probability that you are receiving from each trade the trading fee. So over time, you receive 5% of all the trading fees generated in Bitsquare. And the tokens are represented as a form of color coins, but we are not using an external system. We are implementing it our own in the Bitcoin blockchain. It's a very simple concept, and I discussed it already with a few developers, and they confirmed that it's sound. And it will, I'm starting now to develop it, so it will take probably 2 or 3 months until it's in place. And then when it's in place, then I can offer this sort of payment for the contributors. Because, I mean, a problem with such, I build it basically on my own. I mean, there have been some contributors, but 90% or so was my work, and it does not scale endlessly. Of course, I cannot. I mean, I could deal until yet with all the workload, but I'm getting on my limits already. And I would need, there is so many features, what we want to implement. I cannot do, the day has only 24 hours. I cannot do all. And so
I can understand. I was just confirming what you're saying. So yes.
Yeah, to scale up and to get all these features and all these improvements in the project, I would like to have this funding model, which I think fits perfectly to the decentralized concept of Bitsquare, because when we would take other funding models like Investor or so, then we would introduce single point of failures when there is a company behind the project. The company can get under pressure and so on. And with that model, the ownership get distributed to all the people who helped to build the system. And over time, of course, it will take time. The first year, I'm still the main stakeholder. But after hopefully 1 or 2 years, get much more distributed, and I'm becoming only a minor stakeholder. And then on the fly, also there will be tools developed for governance and for decision making and for communication, because of course the stakeholders will become the owners of the project, so they will have voting power and decision power. But at the beginning, it doesn't make sense, because I would overvote everything with my with my big part of the stake, and we don't have the tools in place at the moment. And I think that was one of the flaws of the DAO, of the 150 million DAO, or not so much anymore. This primitive voting system, that people who are not experts have everybody the same. I mean, it's the same like we have in our normal democracy. It works very, very bad. It's a very poor and very flawed system. And to build a complex project based on such poor tools is a very bad idea. You don't get good results out of this. So we need first good solutions, like something like liquid democracy, what's used by the pirate parties, or Colony, an Ethereum project, which is working in the direction. I mean, there are a few projects in development.
I have a little issue with the sound. I don't hear you. Okay. I don't know if there's someone else in the audience who have problems with the sound.
Is it better now?
Now it's better, yeah, because I lost you a little echo. There was a little echo, yeah.
Okay, I keep the microphone closer.
If you could rewind a little bit, that would...
Okay, I step back a bit. With the... What was the point with the DAO and...
No, it was... I could hear it all. Okay, I have issues. Okay, no, okay. But I think you made your point, Manfred. Well, what I wanted to know is you did can you tell me where people who are interested in participating in the Bitsquare project, what they need to do to be able to? When will this be announced? This distributed ownership model.
Yeah, it has already been announced also on our forum. Also, people should just visit our webpage, bitsquare.io. There they can find all kind of information as a download link for the software, the white paper, videos, all kind of explanation about the concept and the project itself. And our main communication platform is the forum, so forum.bitsquare.io. And there is also a short explanation about the basics of the DAO, also of this distributed ownership model. Mm-hmm. And as long as it's not in place, people should not count with this, because of course I don't want to promise anything which is not already implemented. But it's definitely on the roadmap and my next big task. So hopefully in 2 or 3 months, I think probably in 1 month or in the next weeks, we'll publish a kind of like a white paper or a paper which is describing the concept and the technical implementation also about this concept, how it works in detail. And I'm happy to get feedback and discussions about, especially from the conceptual side and also technical side. So we are very happy when people are joining us. We can need any kind of help, especially on spreading the word. Developers, people are just providing liquidity, trading, using the platform, giving feedback. There's much to do, and every helping hand is welcome.
Okay, that's great. Now you did a 2-month tour, and I can imagine that you announced all this as you now did in this live discussion. How was the feedback during this tour?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Also, I think the basic message that the importance of a decentralized exchange was very well understood by the community. And I also had the luck to meet a lot of developers and people who want to join and want to contribute. And it was quite successful. It was fantastic to meet so many different people in different spaces and get good connections, and would like to continue, but at the moment I need to go back to work, and probably in autumn or in winter there will be another tour, maybe in Asia and in other places again, and maybe some other video chats also, which are easier and not so time consuming.
Okay. Well, we're going to spread the word because it's a very beautiful project. So, we'll need to spread the word. That's for sure. I would like to thank you for coming up and discuss about the project. Thank you very much. And well.
Yes, thank you for inviting me and for the interesting discussion.